Indeed.
Got it.
Here it is. Corner, Luka goes in. How did he do it? How did he do it? That is Luka magic.
With the third pick in the 2018 NBA Draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Luka Doncic of Ljubljana, Slovenia.
We expect from what Woj just told us that Luka will be on his way to Dallas in the heir apparent as franchise cornerstone after Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah, I've been talking to them, I've been talking to a lot of teams, but especially Dallas, they've been talking to me. They were so nice to me. And I'm glad, I'm just happy to be in the NBA, I'm just happy to be a part of that.
Finney Smith to inbound. Back to Doncic. Doncic pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good! Doncic wins the game at the buzzer!
In the backcourt, Luka Doncic. Luka! In his second year, he's a first-time All-Star. Wow. 29 points a game. 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 10 rebounds, 12 triple-doubles, wow, including 2 40-point triple-doubles.
Gotta get it in. Here's Luka. Gets it away. It's gone! A Doncic dagger! He wins it! Three. As he was stumbling, he somehow got it to go!
27-point lead. Johnson free. Oh no, they're shredding him.
Oh no, he didn't. Luka Doncic is absolutely putting on a show here.
Everybody acting up when they up. Everybody acting up.
And the MVP of the Western Conference Finals is... I'm not going to tell you, but he's from Slovenia.
Doncic has the ball, down by 2. There's the switch. Gobert's up here. Doncic maneuvers. Shot. Dallas is taking the lead. Long time. It's only a 1-point lead here, but that's just
Luka Doncic.
This trophy is the whole team, man. It's not me. It's the whole team. I see you. But no, this means a lot. We're going to NBA Finals. Just can't believe it, man.
Yeah. This is the Lakers front office speaking. Hey, buddy, it's us. It's the Mavericks. Just calling to check in. See how things are going with you guys, huh? Yeah, what's up? What's up, buddy? Look, we're thinking about trading Luka Doncic, okay? Any interest at all from you guys there? Look, man, for the last time, we're not interested in Maxi Kleba, okay? We're just not. Wait, I'm sorry. Who'd you say? What name did you just say? Yeah, Luka. Just got our Uber Eats bill from last month. Just fed up with it. Just done. Okay, hold on. Hold on a second, please. They're thinking about trading Luka fucking Doncic.
What?
What? Did he
Are
kill
they out of their
somebody?
minds?
I don't know. Is he involved in an active murder investigation or something? Murder? No, I don't. Is there a murder investigation? No murder, I don't think. No murder that we know of. Okay, hold on. No murder.
Okay, yeah, trade
everything.
Literally trade all of it. All of our players,
25 years old.
Literally trade everything that we have to offer.
Literally
all of
everything
it.
in our. Okay, guys. Hey, it's a negotiation. You have to work your way up. Start small, work your way up. Okay, it's how it works. Yeah, look, we're a little interested. I got to be honest with you. How about Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and 1 pick? How do you spend $80 at Little Caesars? Yeah, that works. That works for us. You got a deal. Really? I mean, are you sure? I mean, okay, yeah, great. Sure, I'll call it in right now. Oh, this is the craziest
job is
thing
so
that's ever
easy.
happened.
We're like bad at it.
But things just still work out for us. Man, I tell you what, you drive an incredibly tough bargain. I mean, you are difficult to negotiate with. I am happy that we made this work. Yeah, thanks, buddy. You too. You've done a great job. Thank you so much for this. Okay. All right, goodbye. I love you. Holy shit. I can't believe this shit, man. What's our Uber Eats budget? Do we have one? Who gives a shit, man? He drops a 30-point triple-double every night. Folks, in case you're living under a rock, under a boulder, under a mountain, I probably don't need to tell you what has happened over the past 10 days. The Dallas Mavericks, out of nowhere, shocked the entire sporting world by trading Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a future first-round pick. Now, I'm just going to say, I would be lying if I said I never thought we would have this conversation talking about Luka Doncic getting traded. Look, it's just the nature of the NBA. These guys change teams. These guys demand trades. These guys move. It's part of what makes the NBA player movement. I thought there was maybe a 5% chance that Luka Doncic would get traded at some point from the Dallas Mavericks to another team, but I thought it would happen the way that these trades typically happen. A superstar gets upset. A superstar wants more money. A superstar doesn't feel like the team is winning as much as he feels the team needs to, and they demand a trade. And the team doing right by the superstar, doing right by the guy who made you competitive and relevant for the last 7 seasons, trades him to where he wants to go for a slew of picks and young players, and you reset your franchise. This is how these things have played out over the course of NBA history and really over the course of the modern NBA. I never in a million years thought I would be sitting in front of you right now talking about the Dallas Mavericks trading Luka Doncic when he had zero desire to be traded, when there was zero trade request. When Luka Doncic has openly said that he wanted to sign a contract extension here to remain with the Dallas Mavericks for the remainder of his career. What the hell has happened? Ever since this trade went down, it does feel like we have slipped into an alternate universe, a different timeline. Something has happened. Something has changed fundamentally in the world. It feels different when I go outside. The air tastes different. Instead of re-signing the 25-year-old megastar and building your franchise around him, or at the very worst, trading him for 1 million draft picks to help reset your franchise, the Mavericks traded him for what feels like pennies on the dollar, all things considered. Look, Anthony Davis is a tremendous player. He is, at worst, a top 10 player in the sport. He had 14 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and a block in the first quarter of his debut. He was the first player in the play-by-play era to record at least 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks and a half. And he did all of that in his debut. Truthfully incredible. But then he gets injured in the fourth quarter. And as of the time I'm recording this, it sounds like he could miss the whole fucking season. I'm sorry. It's going to be a long video. I really need to keep my composure. It sounds like he's going to miss the whole fucking season, which makes some of the reasoning or reported reasoning behind this trade that much more confusing. This trade stinks. This trade absolutely stinks, folks. And I've spent the last 10 days trying to reason with myself, trying to just rationalize it. And I've spoken to people whose basketball opinions I value greatly, people who are very well informed in source on this. And you will hear from those people in this video, but I still just can't make sense of this whatsoever. How do you trade a 25-year-old megastar who's done so many incredible things in his career, who's had one of the best starts to a career we've ever seen in the history of the league? I'm just going to put some of his franchise stats up off to my side while I eat an orange, and they're just going to scroll past my head. Just look at him. Look at all the stuff he's done. Huh? You traded that guy? Hope you're happy, Nico. Hope you're really happy, buddy. Hope you're proud of yourself. Are you proud of yourself? Are you proud of yourself? Yes, this is real. Sources tell ESPN. Full trade. Do you realize how terrible a trade has to be for Shams to confirm to people that he is in fact not trolling when he initially reports a trade, that he is in fact not hacked, which the entire basketball community seemed to think was the case? Do you know how bad a trade has to be for Shaquille O'Neal and Kendrick Perkins to say that you won the trade? We're talking about unprecedented levels of ass. Rival fan bases like the Phoenix Suns and the Oklahoma City Thunder had to put their differences aside to mourn for the Dallas Mavericks. That's how sad it was. They couldn't even make fun of the Mavs anymore. They had to mourn for them. I needed to get somebody's perspective. Someone who knows a thing or two about trades. Someone who knows a thing or two about rebuilding rosters, even if it's in a video game. Because, folks, I'm not sure we aren't living in a video game right now. I'm not sure we're not just some part of Nico Harrison's strange simulation on NBA 2K and we're the fans and he's just going through a trade rebuild challenge that you see on YouTube. I don't have answers for you anymore, folks. Maybe somebody else does. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined by the one, the only Kenny Beecham. You probably don't need me to introduce you to him, but here he is. I really needed a non-Mavericks fan who wasn't just going through the ringer emotionally to get on here and shed some light on this. Is this not the most craziest shit you've ever seen?
Easily the craziest thing. I mean, I like go through the Rolodex of like biggest trades in NBA history, most surprising trades in NBA history. 100% number one. And it's not just the fact that they traded Luka, it's where they traded Luka. It's them only taking one offer. Everything combined just makes it feel weird. And even though we've now seen Luka Doncic in the Lakers jersey for his presser, and now we've seen Anthony Davis be with the team, it still doesn't even seem real. Like no. I feel like it won't feel real for like a year. And I'm not a fan of either of the teams. So it is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I was thinking about the Rolodex of trades too in NBA history. None of them really compare. I mean, some of like the big historic trades, like I saw the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar one get tossed around, but that was, if what I read was correct, that was a trade request, I think. And all of these trades were either trade requests or guys were older. Like the hypothetical I've seen is LeBron. Like if the Cavs traded LeBron.
Right. And yeah, I mean, they did the wrong thing, but the right thing with trying to bring in random talent like Antoine Jameson. It didn't work out, but like when you have that type of talent, you have to try anything. And it felt like the Mavs were doing a good job until they did this trade. But yeah.
Is there like you're a big Chicago sports fan. I feel like you're probably excited because the Mavs will now take the heat as the dumbest front office in basketball for probably the next 100 years plus.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Is there like a Chicago sports equivalent of this? I was trying to brainstorm some.
Not even close. I mean, the most heartbreak I felt as a Chicago sports fan is when they traded Derrick Rose, but he was 2 years removed from an ACL tear and another year removed from another big knee injury. So even then, it was an emotional moment, but it was like the writing was on the wall. We knew that we were going a different direction. And I even think about like Cubs history, Sox history. I'm not a big Blackhawks fan, so I can't really talk about that. Bears history, nothing really nothing compares. Nothing compares.
I'm thinking it's kind of like if the Bulls traded D-Rose out of nowhere after he won his MVP, I'm thinking would be something like that would have tested your fandom, I'm sure. In like
for sure.
Serious way.
100%. Like I have a few former Mav fan friends, and like I've always been a guy that's been loyal to like my teams, even though they're poorly ran and have bad ownership. This was one of the times where I can't fault somebody from switching allegiances. If I was in a Mavs fan's shoes, I would have really thought about whether or not I wanted to support this team long term. And the people that I know, two of them said, I'm out, like just straight up deuces. I don't know who I'm going to support, but it won't be the Mavs. And I don't blame them at all, man. You don't get and you tell me if you believe this way too as a Mavs fan. In my mind, Luka Doncic individually is the best player that this team has ever had. No disrespect to one of my favorite players of all time, Dirk, but talent for talent, it's Luka, and he's 25. You trade that away for a 32-year-old great center, power forward, I guess now. He got his wishes. It just, again, I could say it 100 times. It just doesn't make sense.
No, Luka is the most talented player to ever play for the Mavs. I think Dirk's even said that, but of course Dirk would say that. But yeah, I mean, this was 20. Every Mavs fan I know, I would say 70% of them or so that I'm like close with and friends with are like, I'm done. I don't want to support this franchise anymore. And it's one of the rare instances in sports where no one would blame you at all. If you became a Lakers fan, no one would make fun of you. Yeah. No one would call you a bandwagon fan. I mean, that never happens. I don't know if you saw this tweet going around the ESPN where all of the players are in their new jerseys. I saw a funny quote that was like, this is like one of those videos that says, I reset the NBA. There's a thumbnail.
Yeah.
I figured you'd appreciate that.
We got two superstars getting traded for each other, and then like 5 other all-star or previously all-star players moving. So it was the best deadline ever as a neutral. If we are Mavs perspective or Bulls perspective, it's a little different, but just like pie in the sky, greatest deadline ever.
I've been enamored by this since the trade went down, and I spoke with Kenny a little bit about it, but this might be the craziest trade in the history of sports, and it's easy to get hyperbolic when something like this happens. It's easy to get emotional when something like this happens, but I went through some of the craziest trades in NBA history, some of the craziest trades in sports history, and this is right up there. if not number one. I mean, let's go over some of the crazier trades in the history of the league. You have Shaquille O'Neal getting traded from the Los Angeles Lakers to the Miami Heat in 2004. A shocking decision, to say the least. The Lakers had just made the NBA Finals. They had won 3 of the last 5 NBA championships, but the writing was on the wall. Kobe and Shaquille O'Neal had a very, very public falling out. Both were ready to move on in the offseason. Kobe Bryant was very serious about leaving the Los Angeles Lakers. Shaquille O'Neal wanted a contract extension that would have made him the highest paid player in the history of the sport. The Lakers didn't want to give it to him. He demands a trade. The Lakers oblige. He goes to the Heat. They win the NBA Finals in 2006. Don't even fucking get me started on that one, huh? The Lakers struggle a little bit before they go on to win back-to-back championships in 2009 and 2010. And while this was a shocking trade at the time, the writing was on the wall. We felt that this could happen at some point. Pau Gasol traded to the Lakers during the 2008 trade deadline, which was probably the biggest trade deadline trade up until Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving demanded trades from the Brooklyn Nets in 2023. And while this was a shocking trade, while this was an often talked about and maligned trade, while Greg Popovich said he would have vetoed the trade if he was on a trade committee because of how shady this deal looked on paper, the reasoning behind it was sound. I mean, the Grizzlies had lost in the first round 3 consecutive years. Pau Gasol did request a trade in 2007. The league was pissed off about this, but the reasoning was kind of sound, and the Grizzlies got a decent return. I mean, Marc Gasol ended up becoming a great player for them. The financial flexibility they got because of this trade allowed them to go and sign Zach Randolph in the offseason. A shocking trade in how it went down. Not necessarily shocking that Pau Gasol got traded. Of course, you know, Pau Gasol traded to the Lakers. This next guy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, traded in 1975 to the Los Angeles Lakers. Kareem had 1 year left on his deal. He told the Milwaukee Bucks he wanted out. He felt it would have been better for all parties if he were traded instead of just walking away in free agency. The Bucks tried to convince him to stay. It took 8 months to hammer a deal out. This was considered the biggest trade in history when it happened, but again, shocking. Did the Bucks trade Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at the peak of his powers when he didn't want to be traded? No. He told them he wanted out. The only NBA trade that I feel is even comparable to this is Wilt Chamberlain getting traded from the Golden State Warriors to the Philadelphia 76ers in 1965. I mean, there's some pretty crazy parallels here. At the time, it was called the most sensational move in basketball history. He was traded for what was even considered garbage at the time. I mean, in the power of hindsight, this trade was horrible, but at the time, it was considered garbage. $50,000 in cash. Connie Durking, Paul Newman, and Lee Schaefer was the return for Wilt Chamberlain, who was 28 years old at the time and at the peak of his powers. And you can go back and read some of the reporting on this trade when it happened, and it was pretty hilarious. The Warriors fucking hated his guts. The players hated playing with him. And I'm saying this is probably the most comparable because from what I understand, I'm not sure Wilt Chamberlain demanded a trade from the Warriors, but the Warriors did nothing but besmirch his name on the way out. Sort of similar to what the Dallas Mavericks are doing currently with Luka Doncic. But this trade happened 60 years ago. It was a much different time. Teams legitimately were struggling to stay afloat financially. And the Warriors were the worst team in the league. It just didn't make sense for them anymore. You really got to go outside of basketball to find a trade that even comes close to this. Babe Ruth traded in 1919. I mean, we got to remember this was a very, very different time when teams legit struggled. Babe Ruth wanted a new contract. The Red Sox weren't going to give it to him. They traded his ass for $500,000. What a different world, huh? I mean, like, what a different time. They traded him because there are rumors that the Red Sox owner was doing poorly in the theater. That's right. In the theater. Plays. This is like if the Mavericks came out after and were like, yo, we're just trying to get some funding for the next Ghostbusters reboot. We had to trade Luka. Like, this movie doesn't get off the ground if Luka's still on the roster. And probably what is considered the most shocking trade in sports history, at least before this trade, was the Wayne Gretzky trade. I mean, it has its own ESPN 30 for 30 about it, a King's Ransom, which I would highly recommend watching because I'm just going to be real. I'm too much of a hockey idiot to explain anything about this trade. I really know nothing about it other than it is one of the most shocking trades in the history of sports. And it does make me think we're probably going to get a 10-part Netflix documentary series about this trade 30 years from now. And who knows? Maybe I'll be in it. 30 years from now, I'll probably be president of the country, but I could probably spare a couple minutes. I just talked about the fucking NHL on this channel. Do you understand the situations that we have found ourselves in that I'm talking about hockey? How is this even possible? How did we even get here?
Welcome, everybody. This is an exciting moment in Dallas Mavericks history, a new chapter in Dallas Mavericks history. The first time I've hired a general manager, there aren't enough words to say how excited I am and what the future of the Mavs is going to look like.
To Nico Harrison, our new general manager and president of basketball operations.
My approach is really simple. It's going to be about servant leadership that kind of empowers the team and the staff to be at their best. And then a culture that everybody wants to be a part of. The fans want to be a part of, the staff wants to be a part of, and the team wants to be a part of. And I think if you have those three ingredients, you're going to win.
We needed an insider's voice on this. And so I brought on someone that I've shared blood, sweat, and tears with on the basketball courts on a hot summer day in Oak Cliff, the Dallas Mavs Twitter tournament. My teammate, Tim Cato, also on the DLLS podcast and website. Tim, would you compare this whole saga if that was like I traded you the night before our Mavs Twitter tournament? Very similar.
I think our fan base, the fan base of our team, would be even more outraged.
Yeah, that's true.
And
they probably would have killed me, actually.
It would have been a very difficult time for them. And, just because of how much they've invested in our Twitter tournament dreams. So whatever they might have felt in that situation, I do think there's a lot to compare to the Mavericks fan base right now.
That was just the first thing I thought of when I saw this Luka trade. Then the next thing I thought of was, what the hell just happened? We've all heard all of the conspiracies, all of the rumors. I want to know, just in your opinion, your speculation based off what you've heard, or just your personal beliefs, what do you think transpired here? Just the gist of it.
I mean, I'll speak to what I believe, and a lot of what I believe does come from things I have reported and people I've talked to, but I don't think there's any conspiracy going on. And in fact, I really don't think this is as complicated of a thing as people want it to be. And I think people really want it to be complicated, because I understand that on the face that, a lot of people just don't make sense of it and can't understand it. And I understand where they're coming from. I have struggled to reason with this as well. But Nico Harrison went into a press conference last weekend, the day after the trade happened, barely 12 hours after the news was made official. And he said that, he believes this gives Dallas a better chance to win a championship. He believes that championships are won with defense. And he believes that these incoming players fit the culture better. And I think you should believe him. I think you should believe Nico Harrison when he says that he believes this team is better set up for a championship. I think you should believe that is why he made this move. That in his head, he did not trust Luka Doncic, even though he just went to the finals, even though he has so much evidence with his own eyes of Luka Doncic on the court, that he did not see Luka Doncic as a player who gave them enough of a chance to win a championship. And, I do think Anthony Davis is part of this, and Nico Harrison's long-standing relationship with him, and clearly a player that Nico Harrison would have, has wanted here in Dallas as long as Nico's been the general manager of the Mavericks. But clearly, and I have not heard, what we know about Luka and what we know about him off the court, and his struggles, with at times with conditioning and with diet and all this stuff. I've not heard anything new. It's not like anything that I had heard over the past few years, all of a sudden it had been hidden how bad it was. None of that has happened in the fallout of this. And, so all you're left with is that this was a man who has been appointed general manager of the Mavericks, and he made a basketball move. And as fun and as engaging and as much want as there is for a conspiracy to be behind this decision, I just don't think there is. I just think it was a basketball decision. And I don't know if that makes it better. And it really might not. I really, get the impression that doesn't make it better for the fan base. but that's what it was.
The Dallas Mavericks have spent the last 10 days or so poo-pooing on Luka Doncic and the legacy that he has had with the Dallas Mavericks. Is part of why the Mavericks fans have such a sour taste. We have such a sour taste in our mouth regarding this trade. Not only did it happen in complete and total secrecy, not only did it happen in the middle of the night, not only did it happen fresh off of a finals appearance, but then you're going to just shit on his character. Every single day I open up Twitter in the wake of this trade, you say something else, you talk out of your ass even further, which makes things even worse. Nico Harrison immediately leaking to Tim McMahon minutes after the trade happened. I believe that defense wins championships. Mavs GM Nico Harrison told ESPN regarding his motivation to trade Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis. I believe that getting an all-defensive center and an all-NBA player with a defensive mindset gives us a better chance. We're built to win now and in the future, motherfucker. You were just in the NBA Finals. Does he know this? Does Nico Harrison know that? He might not know that. This actually gives credence to the fact that we might be in a different alternate timeline, folks. I'm not sure they actually made the NBA Finals in Nico Harrison's mind. What do you mean win out in the future? You were just winning. You were just winning now. Also, nothing in this quote makes any sense whatsoever. Defense wins championships. That's true. The Mavericks were one of the best defensive teams in the league from the trade deadline onwards last year. Yeah, you got belt to ass in the playoffs, in the finals by the Boston Celtics. You did not look that competitive in this series. But defensively, you really did not do a terrible job against what was a juggernaut offensive Boston Celtics team. In all 5 of the finals games, you held the Celtics to under their regular season averages in terms of offensive rating. In 4 of the 5 games, you held them under their postseason averages. What went wrong is you could not score offensively, and you knew that, which is why you did all of the things you did in the offseason. That's why you went and got a Klay Thompson over somebody like Derek Jones Jr., a Najee Marshall over somebody like Derek Jones Jr.'s guys who could do a little bit more with the ball in their hands, guys who are a little bit more reliable as shooters, guys who, didn't need Luka to spoon feed them opportunities. You brought back another ball handler in Spencer Dinwiddie. You got a guy who, in theory, has some legit on-ball creation and some juice on the ball in Quentin Grimes. This reasoning does not make any sense. Nico then insinuating in one of the worst press conferences we've seen since our buddy Dwyer's press conference on January 22nd, 1987, that Luka simply fit the Mavs culture instead of adding to it. As if averaging 32, 9, and 8 in the conference finals against a team that had one of the best defenses we've seen in decades does nothing for the culture. What's the culture? You losing? Is that the culture you want? Because you're probably going to do a lot of that in the near future. What do you mean we're built to win now and in the future? You just traded a 25-year-old. Did Nico think that he was getting a time machine in this trade? Did I miss something in the reporting? Was Nico Harrison under the impression that a time machine was included in this trade? Because that actually does add up. This was all made 1 million times worse when the new Mavericks owner and unfortunately new face of the franchise, Patrick Dumont, opened his mouth for the first time after the trade. 8 days after the trade, the first statement we got from Patrick Dumont. Folks, what I'm about to read to you was something that was actually said. If you look at the greats in the league, the people you and I grew up with, Jordan, Bird, Kobe, Shaq, they worked really hard every day with a singular focus to win. And if you don't have that, it doesn't work. You shouldn't be a part of the Dallas Mavericks. Shaq, seriously? A guy who, one of the reasons why he was on the outs with the Lakers and why Kobe Bryant hated him was because he was notoriously lazy and fat. Beyond that, no mention of Dirk. Like, you're going to include all of these legendary players and icons and not mention Dirk Nowitzki? Like, how are you the owner of the Dallas Mavericks and there's one single get out of jail free card that you have at your disposal? That's Dirk Nowitzki being alive and being a human being that exists in our world. You could drop a child off of the Reunion Tower and say, guys, sorry, I was still so pissed off about Dirk getting robbed in the 2006 finals. And people would be like, well, let's hear him out, actually. He spent an entire week calling him fat following the trade. They insinuated that he does not care about winning, that he does not work hard enough, that he doesn't try hard enough defensively, that you can't win a championship with him. They compared him to Joel Embiid and said they were concerned about him turning into Joel Embiid, who is quickly approaching the 50% threshold. What do I mean by that? Joel Embiid has played in 50% of the games in his career. He has missed half of the games in his career. Is it possible that the lingering lower body injuries that Luka currently finds himself dealing with is a sign of things to come? Is a sign that he could have some very serious injury concerns in the not so distant future? I mean, sure. I would say that you cross that bridge when it gets there, because all of the other things that he does is so good that you could easily take the risk with that. But this reasoning rings a little bit hollow when you trade him for a guy who's, God bless him, a great, fantastic player, and I hope he has a great career with the Dallas Mavericks, whose nickname is Day to Davis, a guy who played in 3 quarters with your team before, as of the time I'm recording this, I'm not sure right now, could potentially miss the remainder of the season. You got 3 quarters with him. 3. 1, 2, 3. Guys, there's 4 quarters in a basketball game. He didn't even get 3 quarters. I just knocked the oranges everywhere. Look what you've done, Nico Harrison. Now I have a mess of oranges on the floor. I'm trying to keep my composure as best as I can when I'm recording this video. It just makes no sense. And when something happens, whether that's something, a world-changing event, or even smaller things, when things happen that we can't fully comprehend, that we can't grasp, that we don't understand, our minds go the conspiracy route. There has to be something more at play here. There has to be powers that be that are pulling the strings behind the scenes, that we're just not understanding fully what's transpiring. Have you seen these conspiracies? Do you believe any of these conspiracies?
I've seen them. I grew up in a household with some big conspiracy theorists, so I usually steer along side of that. Conspiracy theories just aren't true in most cases.
Yeah.
Damn it, this might be the best basketball conspiracy theory ever. I can't lie. I cannot lie.
Which one? The Vegas one? Is that the one that you think?
The Vegas one, yeah. Yeah.
I just think there's so many bullets. Maybe this is just me coping as hard as possible, but I just look at that one and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, if this were Charlotte, I would be like, okay, like this, there really might be something to this. No offense, Charlotte. God bless you. Or New Orleans, or like a smaller market, but it being Dallas, I'm just, would the NBA let that happen? Really? Like, let a team leave Dallas, Texas?
I think it would have to be 20 years of poor basketball.
Oh,
and
boy.
then that's just too long-sighted for the owner. So, like, again, I don't really believe in it too much, but that was one that made me be like, okay, all right. Because what other explanation could it be for trading Luka? It has to be something pie in the sky, super crazy, right? There's no other explanation.
One of the most popular theories that I've seen going around is that the Adelsons want to tank the value of the Dallas Mavericks so that they can either A, use them as leverage to get gambling legalized in the state of Texas, or B, worst case scenario, move them, take them out of Dallas, Texas, and move them to Las Vegas. Folks, you know you've reached a bad point when your uncle's Facebook conspiracy articles are going around and being passed around and going viral. That's when you know shit's bad. Anytime you see a Facebook post conspiracy that's gaining traction, something horrible's happened. Something terrible has happened. First and foremost, the Mavericks lease on the American Airlines Center runs through 2031. They're not moving before that. And that might seem like it's around the corner, because it is. That's only 6 years away, but that is a very, very long time in the basketball world. Just think about this. 6 years ago from now, Russell Westbrook was on the Oklahoma City Thunder, as was Paul George. Now look at them. Look, it's an open secret. The Adelsons bought the Dallas Mavericks with the hopes and dreams of building a ginormous casino resort / stadium that the Dallas Mavericks would move to when their lease with the American Airlines Center was up, once inevitably Texas legalizes gambling. Owning one of the biggest franchises in the state was a power move. It gets them a foot in the door. It gives them some sway when it comes to the politics of the state. And legalizing gambling in Texas is something they are working tirelessly to accomplish. They spent $4.5 million in political contributions to the Republican State Leadership Committee's Texas PAC during the 2020 state elections. Keep in mind, this was 3 years before they purchased the Dallas Mavericks. They spent $9 million on the Texas Defense PAC during the 2024 state primary runoff elections. And in 2023, the Texas House voted to legalize online sports gambling in the state. Gambling legalization in Texas is something that has overwhelming support amongst Texas voters. But that was shot down by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who is stonewalling any attempt to legalize gambling at this point. It just seems like it will never happen as long as he is in office. And yes, in just some very interesting timing that made people who buy into this conspiracy even more convinced that this is true, Governor Greg Abbott came out days after the trade saying that he does support the legalization of gambling in Texas. What does this mean? Maybe it's not just schizo posting, folks. maybe there's some truth behind this. Look, when there's this much money involved in something, when there are people involved who are unquestionably evil, like they're evil, the Allisons are evil people, folks. They're evil people. When there's those parties at play, you really can't rule anything out. But I just have a really hard time buying this theory. Okay, first and foremost, the Sands sold both the real estate and management of their Vegas Strip properties in 2021. The Dumonts, the Addisons, they've been out of the Vegas casino industry for quite some time. Dallas is currently the 4th biggest market in the United States. Las Vegas is the 40th. That would just be absolutely insane to me to remove a franchise from one of the biggest markets in the country and move them to a place where it's really just kind of gimmicky. Like, oh, cool, we have a franchise in Las Vegas now. Like, whenever you go to Vegas with your boys over the weekend, you can go and hang out at a game. And it's not like the Mavericks aren't doing well. They currently have the highest average attendance in the entire NBA. They have the longest sellout streak in the entire NBA, dating back well over a decade at this point. Again, moving this team to the 40th biggest market in the country just makes no sense whatsoever to me at all. Especially when you consider the NBA is going to get a $5 to $6 billion expansion fee when they inevitably expand the league and give a team to Las Vegas. I mean, this feels like a foregone conclusion that this is going to happen at this point. It's just a matter of when, not if. This theory just falls apart a little bit. I know we want to believe in some grand conspiracy because it makes more sense than, oh, hey, yeah, I just fucking traded Luka Doncic because I don't know. I'm best buds with Rob Pelinka. Like, another popular theory is that the league is involved here. Look, it's no secret. It's been talked about quite a bit. I've talked about it on this channel that the ratings across the league are down just a little bit. The face of the league is 40 years old. The team that he is on, the Los Angeles Lakers, the biggest team in the league, the biggest team the league has to sell, is probably fucked once that guy retires. They don't have a great track record of building up a team. They just basically wait for star players to decide they want to go to Los Angeles. But now they get a 25-year-old megastar, an international superstar who's top 5 in jersey sales every year, who has his own Jordan signature shoe, who has over 10 million followers on Instagram, who can carry the torch for not only the Los Angeles Lakers, again, the biggest team in the league, but also carry the torch for the NBA once LeBron decides it's time to pass it to him. This is my coping mechanism. This is the one I'll choose to believe. Stranger shit has happened. And I just want to say this right now. I'm planting my flag. If the Mavericks end up missing the playoffs this year and find themselves in the draft lottery, and by some miraculous stroke of luck end up winning the draft lottery, my ears perk up. This 100% is real. 100% it's real. But then another conspiracy pops into my mind that makes me very upset. If the Mavericks do find themselves in the lottery, the NBA would rig it so that the Mavericks don't win. Because if the Mavericks do win the lottery, then it's just obvious that this was all a huge conspiracy the entire time. It's literally conspiracyception. Conspiracy. The thing I keep coming back to, it's a couple of razors. And no, I'm not talking about Gillette. One of them, Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity, as well as Occam's razor, which states the simplest explanation is usually the correct explanation. I think the reality of this was an all-time stupid general manager move. An all-time stupid general manager move. An all-time heat check from a general manager who was on a hot streak, who had made right move after right move, and decided, hold on, man, I can't miss. You thought Tim Hardaway Jr. heat check threes were bad? You thought Spencer Dinwiddie 2-for-1 threes were bad? You just saw the worst shot ever took. Nico Harrison feels like this is his franchise. Not Luka Doncic's, not Mark Cuban's, his. And he made one of the most shocking trades in history because of it, which really is a shame because he had such a high approval rating amongst Mavericks fans.
So I had a question for you. In Mavs land, how was Nico Harrison perceived by the fans before this trade?
I wouldn't say overwhelmingly positive. I would say mostly positive.
Okay.
Like he'd been on a heater. He had been on an absolute heater. Almost everything he did felt like it worked out. Traded for Kyrie when Kyrie's value was at probably the lowest Kyrie's value could possibly go. And there was tons of concerns. Like obviously in hindsight, we forget, but there were so many concerns about Kyrie Irving when that trade happened. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that worked out swimmingly. Derek Lively, there was, obviously the Mavs got so much shit for tanking for that pick, but Derek Lively comes in and nobody expected. I mean, we were talking about him starting the season in the G League. Like nobody expected him to have that impact. And then all the moves along the margins, like Derek Jones Jr. I think that was in September. veteran minimum signing. Gets 30 minutes a game for the Mavs in the playoffs. PJ Washington. Now, they lucked out because that could have been Kyle Kuzma, but they got PJ Washington, and he's become this huge piece. The Daniel Gafford, like all of the moves worked, and then that's why you get so many conspiracies. I look like such a dumbass for some of my praise about Nico Harrison over the past few seasons. I mean, really, I feel like a dumb idiot after this.
He's done miracles on me.
He's done nightmares on me. He's done nightmares. It's hard to blame me. They did make the NBA Finals. They have gone to the conference finals in 2 of the last 3 seasons. In terms of playoff success, they're up there in the last 4 years in the Western Conference. Only the Nuggets have won as many postseason series as them. They did have a great offseason. I mean, this Mavs starting 5, we only saw them on the court together 14 times this season, but that starting 5 group that they had was the best 5-man lineup in the entire NBA. When they played, this was the year. I have changed my tone dramatically. And I can't help but wonder after something like this happens, like, was this the straw that broke the camel's back? Did something happen over the course of the season that made Nico Harrison snap and turn on a dime and trade his franchise player? Or is this something that Nico had been plotting in secrecy for quite some time? And the fact that the Mavericks made the finals last year threw an entire wrench in his plan. He was going to do it in the summer, but you can't trade a guy after you just made the finals. How are you supposed to explain that to fans? Was this something that was being plotted for quite some time? One last question. You guys reported this a few days ago, and I recommend everyone check it out. alldlls.com. You said Nico Harrison's desire to trade Luka Doncic has been suspected by those familiar with his thinking months before it happened. Again, I recommend you guys go check out this article. I'm wondering if you can expand on that just a tiny bit.
I can. I had not, these sentiments had not been shared with me ahead of time. I was as blindsided as anyone. I understood that there was conflict and tension. Tension is probably the right word. And I understood that this situation could get to a point where Luka just didn't want to be here based off how he was being seen and treated. A decision that, as he's made very clear, he wanted to sign the Supermax. It was not a decision that I think would have been in his, it would have been in his control, but it would have been something, more so seen as something forced upon him. But yeah, and as I started talking to people, in the wake of this trade, there was an understanding that, some people saw this coming. And I just think that's important context of, how this all happened, that it was something that was, at least months in the making. And obviously the, reporting about the TikTok of the actual trade negotiations have shown that it's, something that was literally, in terms of the conversations with Pelinka, weeks in the making. And it was always going to get to a point, is my understanding. It was always going to get to a point that Nico Harrison was going to attempt to trade Luka Doncic. And, even though the people I talked to were, shocked that it happened at this deadline, there's no alternate history where this move doesn't happen and Luka is in Dallas happily forever. I don't think there was never going to be a happy ending.
The people that have told you this think that a trade was inevitable, whether it was now or 4 months from now.
Yeah,
that is. And based off of that, and I've been wondering this lately too, was there a straw that broke and this is just a question I'm asking about your opinion. I don't know if you've heard anything about this. Was this a straw that broke the camel's back moment where something happened and Nico snapped and said, all right, it's time to finally trade you? Or could we have seen a situation last July where maybe the Mavs don't make the finals, maybe they lose to the Clippers in round 1 or something, and this trade happens then? And Nico just kind of felt, I can't trade a guy that we just came off of a finals appearance with.
It's a really good question. It's a question I'm thinking a lot about, since learning of this news, and it's a question I don't have an answer to yet.
Months in the making. Is this the most out of touch man in America? I won't spend too much time acknowledging the report that Nico Harrison did not expect this level of backlash from fans, because it is from Will Kane, and I'm not sure why exactly Will Kane would have that much inside knowledge about what's going on at the Dallas Mavericks. Although I do see a Will Kane, Miriam Adelson tie there. I'm starting to talk myself into it a little bit. But based off of what we've seen and heard, that really would not surprise me in the slightest. The press conference Nico gave the morning after the trade was one of the most out of touch moments I can remember, especially in sports. Laughing, joking around. Oh, hey guys, is it usually this crowded before the game starts? What's funny, buddy? What's funny? No one is laughing. Do you see anyone laughing? He spent more time in the press conference talking about Maxi Kleber than he did Luka Doncic. And God bless Maxi Kleber, but please take a second and think about how insane that is. The press conference the day after, and all of your time covering the team. Which how long has it been? It's been a while, right?
11 seasons, if you consider, with a season credential. Not all of them full time, not all of them, but yes, a long time.
Was that the biggest shit show press conference you've seen?
I just don't know what he hoped to accomplish. And the idea expressed to me by employees within the team that Nico Harrison did not grasp how the fan base would react to this, did not anticipate that it would be anything to this degree, that it would be anywhere this visceral, that he did not, understand the fan base's attachment, and attachment is way too light of a word, to first Dirk Nowitzki and then to Luka, and the way that Luka was championed as the next Dirk Nowitzki, and the way that Luka fashioned himself as a player who was following in Nowitzki's footprints. All of that comes out in that press conference. All of that is very visible. From even something as simple as thanking briefly Luka for his time with the Mavericks, and then thanking Maxi, and having a funny, warm anecdote to share about Maxi, but so little properly expressed about what Luka meant to this franchise. I do have a sense that alongside the team in Harrison, feeling that Luka wasn't the player to lead them on a championship hunt, that there was some level of dissatisfaction with him as a player and what he meant and what he was to this franchise. So I don't know. I don't know how you see that press conference and think that was just very visibly shared in a way that you should never, ever expect a press conference to allow you to intuit all that stuff.
All right, I'll open it up. Thanks for everybody for coming. Jay, is it normally this crowded for your pregame speeches?
No, they don't want to hear about everybody who's out.
Maxi Kleber, when he got hurt the other day and I go in the back and check on him, and the first thing he says is sorry for getting hurt, but that just, kind of goes to the type of person he is. And then
I just think that the point of attack defense wasn't slightly.
Huh?
Slightly, wake up.
Oh.
We're doing the Pistons. The Mavs just lost to the Pistons.
They traded Luka, dude. What are they thinking?
How long were you asleep?
I don't know. They traded Luka.
Why would they ever trade Luka?
They said he was fat.
That's a wild dream you just had.
They said he was fat.
No, he's not. He hasn't got a calf injury. He didn't eat a calf. It's a calf injury.
That's not what Nico said. Nico said he ate the calf whole.
What else happened in your dream? How many eyes did he have?
We're back to the Pistons game.
They lost. Dante Exum returned. You got some. There was a disaster. Like we just watched this together.
I love you, Nick. Never take anything for granted.
It's a beautiful day outside in Dallas right now. Very rare that it's this nice. You know how pissed off people have to be to spend their day protesting a basketball trade? Let's go.
He's not back. Bring him back. 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 He's not back. Bring him back.
Everyone today has been saying loyalty never fades away, but it's very obvious that it has. I love my guys. I love PJ. I love Gafford. I love Lively. I loved Grimes, but they threw him away too. That being said, I can't support a snake organization like this. I'm done.
I am still a Mavericks fan. What Nico and the Adelsons have done is not terminated with the Mavs who brought me in my lifetime. You look at 2011, the championship. You look at everything that Dirk went through in 2006. Everything that's led up to this is terrible. I hate the new ownership. I hate everything that's happened with it, but it does not eliminate everything the Mavs have done for me in the past.
Yeah, I'm more like, yeah, I'm Luka fan, yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe if like 4 or 5 championships, I might like lean towards it, but yeah, I need at least like a 3-peat. Like, yeah. I'm leaning towards Lakers though right now.
I guess so. Chicken fan, bro. Mavs died to me on, what was it, February 1st?
Dallas Redacteds, they don't deserve to have their name shown anywhere. I'm not giving them my money, my attention, my eyesight, my ears, my hearing, my feel, my touch. They don't get a damn thing out of me anymore. They have lost a MFFL for life.
Broke my heart, bro.
When the Mavs traded Luka, I was at a loss of words. I got so sick to my stomach, I puked. My knees were quivering, I was weak, I chain smoked like 8 cigs. I couldn't stop thinking about how we got fleeced, absolutely fleeced. This is the worst trade in sports history. It doesn't make sense. Something is going on. Investigate it. FBI, come on, let's get this going.
Bring Luka home. Fire Nico Harrison. One of the two. They broke me, bro. They ripped my heart out. They stomped on it. I cried. I cried on the way to work every day for the last week, dude.
So what I did here is I turned my back to the Mavs, like the Mavs turned their back to us.
I'm not sure I've ever seen a fan base protest a team outside of the stadium before a game because of a roster transaction. I've seen fans protesting their team, protesting their ownership. I'm thinking back to the fans protesting the Oakland A's when they were leaving. I remember Nets fans protesting outside of the arena after the Kyrie Irving situation back in 2022. There are tons of instances in my research of football fans protesting their favorite football clubs. And we are lucky. We are lucky we do not have the European football fan culture that in the United States that you see over there. Because we'd be on like day 6 of nuclear winter at this point. I mean, we'd be at day 6, day 7. We'd be eating ravioli out of a can. But a protest outside of the stadium before a game is something I've never seen, at least not at this level, again, for a trade. And of course, it runs much deeper than that, than it just being a simple trade. But I just can't remember an instance of this ever happening. And I have to commend the protesters who were there. I was there. I was documenting it. I was watching it. There were hundreds of people, thousands of people probably even, came and went over the course of the day. Much more people than I expected to see there. They were respectful. They were peaceful. The police did put up barricades. There was a police presence there as well. Of course, a couple of days before the game, the Mavericks were playing the Celtics on TNT. Allie the Force made a point about how the Mavericks were concerned about the player safety and the front office safety when they returned to Dallas.
Kid told us just moments ago he believes Anthony Davis does have the shoulders to carry this load. One big concern, though, is just the safety of the players, the front office going back to Dallas. We hope fans make the wise decision and remember that this is a game and that lives are far more important.
Tim McMahon went on ESPN saying that lines had been crossed.
Nico Harrison has been subjected to death threats. There have been racial epithets included in some of those. Certainly security is going to be beefed up. There will be protests outside the arena, or at least those are planned. Security will absolutely be beefed up.
But with all that in mind, local reporter who does a great job covering the Dallas Mavericks and the NBA at large, Grant Avseth, I'm planting my flag right here. The next Adrian Wojnarowski, Grant Avseth, reported that he spoke with the Dallas Police Department and that there were no credible threats against Nico Harrison or the Mavericks at that time. And look, this was a clear PR move by the Dallas Mavericks, an attempt to try and protect them, try and make them seem a little innocent, try to make them seem, you know, like not the bad guys in this situation, and an attempt to make it seem as though Dallas Mavericks fans had declared jihad on the team and that there would be an ongoing war fought in the streets of Dallas, Texas. But I will say, I'll give a little benefit of the doubt here. You know, I don't want to pat myself on the back too much. I do have a pretty sizable platform. I see a lot of the things you guys say. You guys say a lot of things to me in chat. You guys say a lot of things to me in Twitter replies. There was some crazy shit said, okay? And all it takes is one person to not be trolling for there to be an even worse situation on our hands. So, but this turning into a story by itself is just another sad piece in all of this. Just another sad part of the story. Another interesting piece in all of this, the atmosphere in the arena after the first home game. Me and a buddy I was with, we went to a bar right outside the stadium to watch the first quarter because we didn't have tickets to go in. We didn't want to support the team by going in and buying tickets. I made a point to my friend we were watching. I was like, I thought this was going to be more hostile inside. I thought we were going to hear chants. I thought there was going to be boos. Of course, Anthony Davis gave the crowd a lot to cheer about early on in the game, but the crowd seemed excited. The atmosphere felt electric. However, in the days following the game, it appears that this was by design. There have been plenty of tweets that have come out after this game about the Mavs clamping down on any discontent that was seen throughout the stadium. Benjamin tweeted this out about his experience at the game, and I had to message him to get a little bit more information on what happened inside the arena. He gave me permission to share this message, so I'm going to share it. Yeah, went to the game with a friend. We both wore Luka Slovenia jerseys, so we didn't get much flack for entering. That's actually a piece of this that makes me a little bit more sad about it all, is I really did enjoy watching Luka for the Slovenia national team. I'll still probably do it, but I am not waking up at 4 a.m. to do it anymore like I did in the past. That's a piece of me that's gone forever because of Nico Harrison. Saw one guy who had a Mavs jersey with duct tape over the Mavs. Upon entry, they told him to remove the tape. How are you going to do that? What if that was just a fashion statement? Huh? What if he was just dripping out? What if he was just putting that shit on? You told him to take it off? That's fucked up. Got to our seats in the group next to us, 300 sections, wore hoodies. This was intentional. Took them off and had Fire Nico shirts. I swear less than 2 minutes passed when 2 security people were there telling them to put them back on. We started a Fire Nico chant right at tip-off. Same security people were back and told us they'd throw us out if we continued. They never one time showed the crowd during the game. No kiss cam or flex cam. Just never showed the crowd. I thought this was so interesting, and I asked around more people who I knew were at the game, and this was confirmed to me. The Mavericks did not put fans on the Jumbotron during timeouts. If you've ever been to an NBA game, or really any major sporting event, any team that has a Jumbotron, but specifically any NBA game, you know how weird that is. Like the whole timeouts are typically spent with the camera panning around the stands with goofy shit. Like they do AI faces now. Nothing at all. So we actually have a pretty hilarious update to this story. The Dallas Mavericks have played a home game since the time I recorded this. And in the second half of the game, they put fans on the Jumbotron for the first time since the trade. And wouldn't you know it, somebody had something to say whenever the camera panned to them. Now, before you guys say anything, oh my God, wait, is this you? It's a very handsome man in the video. And just keep in mind, you're probably the 200th to 300th person to make the joke. So you're not original. Make matters worse, the state apparatus known as the Dallas Mavericks kicked this fan out of the game later on in the night. Now, I have seen people say that he held up a big Fire Nico sign or whatever, and that's the real reason he got kicked out. Either way, just a brutally bad look, especially on a night where I saw people say dozens of people were kicked out of the game for starting chants. It was even reported that Mark Cuban stood up and yelled at someone to sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up. Man, the vibes are in the gutter. Lindsay Kate had a small little cardboard cutout of Luka's head that got confiscated once it made it past security because they said it was too large, which makes no sense because it's a tiny little cutout head. People go in there with ginormous ass, obnoxious ass cardboard signs. If it was Nico Harrison's head, would they have let it in? If it was Miriam Madison's head, would they have let it in? If it was Donald Trump's head, would Miriam Madison have kicked it out? Answer me that right now. You answer me that right now. Jimmy Pesto had his shirt confiscated and was threatened to be kicked out. Look how angry he is. Didn't even know it was possible for faces to turn that shade of red. Christopher Cradavelli, my buddy and I put tape over the Mavericks logos on our gear. We were forced to remove the tape by an usher. Anytime a Fire Nico or Sell the Team chant would start, a half dozen ushers would descend on the chanters, threatening to eject them. Really weird vibe at the AAC. This felt like an opportunity for fans to blow off some steam. And for some fans, this is it. This was closure. The protest, the game, this was them closing the book on being fans of the Dallas Mavericks. Do you want to know something I actually saw at the protest? I actually saw this with my own two eyes. A guy had a Lakers jersey on and Boston Celtics sweatpants. Do you understand what you've done? I feel especially bad for anybody who makes content regarding this team. Not just the financial aspect of it, because that's obviously something as well. For those of you worried about me, don't worry. I'm gonna be fine. Have you seen the Penthouse lately? Trust me, guys. I'm gonna be okay. But I feel bad because it's just the motivation to talk about this team, the dedication. I mean, you realize how dedicated of a fan you have to be to create a podcast or a YouTube channel or a blog dedicated to a sports team. That's a lot of love. That's a lot of passion right there. And from what I've seen from friends that I have spoken to who make content, who create things centered around the Dallas Mavericks, this is a very trying time. And many of them are completely and totally moving on. I'm joined with the one, the only Bibbs at Bibbs Corner, half of what was previously known as Mavs Outsiders, but I guess will now be known as Outsiders. Is that right?
We got some names we're workshopping behind the scenes.
Workshopping some names, him and Reese. I wanted to bring you on to talk about this because I value your perspective greatly. As someone who has built one of the biggest fan-driven Mavs podcasts there was, and one of the longer standing ones. I listened to y'all's final episode, and it was the somber state of affairs. Optimus Bibbs died, from my understanding. Do we know what the cause of death is just yet?
Allegedly, he might have been socked out on camera.
Okay.
Allegedly, there's no evidence that has been leaked at this time, but that is the story that's being told behind the scenes. Yes.
Well, we don't want to interfere with any potential investigations, so we'll just keep our thoughts and prayers with Optimus Bibbs and his loved ones. But so this was the most shocking turn of events anyone could have ever imagined. And for you guys, you're done.
As it stands today, there's likely not going to be any more Mavs Outsiders. There was probably a podcast, but it's not going to be the Mavs Outsiders. It's hard to get excited about the remnants of what this team is currently.
Is this one of like the only things, and I heard y'all talking about this on the podcast, but I'd like to go on it deeper, but is this like one of the only personnel driven things? Because there's obviously stuff teams could do that are just evil and reprehensible that you can't ignore. But from a personnel standpoint, this is like the only thing I can think of that could draw fans out of the door like this.
Yeah. And this goes back to like conversations I had with people about like the Rudy Gobert situation in Utah. Like people saying, why would Utah give him a max? Because they can't just let him leave. The fans would not have forgiven them for letting him leave at the time. You stick by your guy. Damian Lillard stayed in Portland way too long because the team needed him to ask to leave. They couldn't just trade him. The fan base would have turned against them. So to, in the cover of darkness, decide that you're going to trade a 25-year-old superstar who everyone loved, that, you know, the story transitioning straight from Dirk into Luka, and we put up a statue with the loyalty never fades at the bottom, and you trade this guy under the cover of darkness and try to sell the team like we're going to be better. That doesn't fly. Like, even if we're better, it doesn't fly because the loyalty thing is gone, and that's kind of what being an MFFL was all about.
Is there anything that could come out that has real substantial truth behind it where you could say, okay, that makes me feel different about how this happened?
If they find out that Luka has bodies in his backyard, if we find out that he was I don't even know, I can't think of, is it I-35? What's the interstate? If Luka's the I-35 slasher, you know what I'm saying? Like that comes out, I could get behind it. I could understand. Like if Nico saw him, you know, dumping a body in the river in the middle of the night.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know if that's far enough for me. I'm gonna be real. At the end of the day, it's about winning championships. From top to bottom, this just feels so out of touch with how the fans are going to respond, with how everyone across the league is going to look at this moving forward. I'm trying to imagine, I mean, Bill Duffy, that's off the table, right?
I would imagine so.
I mean, Kessler Edwards is a Bill Duffy agent, client, funny enough, but I can't imagine Bill Duffy's going to be super excited with working with the Mavs. I can't imagine superstars are like, if they traded Luka Doncic, I mean,
like if this is how Nico Harrison moves as a player, shout out to Hart. I don't think I can go into a meeting with Nico Harrison selling me on a dream and expect him to keep his word. Like if this is how you treat a Luka Doncic, like I know that you're gonna do whatever to me.
That's what's so shocking about this, because that's why you brought in Nico. That was the big selling point, was that he's a relationships guy and people love him across the league. And this just feels like all of that hard work has just been completely and totally erased, just from an outsider's perspective. No pun intended.
No, for sure. Like I can't do it. I can't spin it in any way that makes sense.
Did you and Reese, did you guys have like a pregame, like, hey, are you done? Or was it like y'all's had that connection? It's just like, this is it. I don't want to talk about this team.
Yeah,
And
it
maybe
was, like, so he was asleep when all of it went down. I think I've told you before on the podcast, you know, I was watching Severance and I opened Twitter and saw the alerts or whatever. So he didn't see it till the next morning. I didn't message him until maybe halfway through his workday. I saw like his video that he posted. But yeah, we just kind of came in and he was like, I'm just gonna say it, I'm done. I was like, yeah, I think I'm done too.
I wish I was severed right now.
I saw somebody say they wish they could sever themselves to get to the man.
Just be a severed sports fan. I only sever myself when I watch the Mavs, and that's it. My innie only has the torture of watching the Dallas Mavericks.
That would be fantastic, actually.
The Audi has no stress. Look, I'm just going to say this. This is an unprecedented time in NBA history. And obviously the trade, but I'm saying from a fan's perspective, you can jump ship and change teams and no one will blame you. The amount of times that that's a thing is very, 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 very slim. And I'm going to say this to fans. You don't need anybody to approve you changing teams. You don't need to try and convince yourself that it's the right thing. You don't need to try and convince anyone else. If you feel like you have been betrayed to the point where you do not want to root for this team anymore, do not root for this team. Nobody is forcing you to. The beautiful thing about sports, right? And I know there's going to be people who probably don't care that much, who come across this video or whatever and think, who gives a shit? Like, it's just a sports team at the end of the day. It's just sports ball. It's just sports ball. It's just a silly game. Sports can often serve as a much needed distraction from other things going on in life. A lot of fans, myself included, but tons of fans grew up playing sports, grew up playing the sports that they watch. So they have a deep-rooted love for the game in and of itself and watching that game being played at the highest level with the best people in the world, repping your city, repping the city that you call home. It's a special feeling. You form a bond with that team. Being a sports fan is a sense of community. You have fellow fans around you. You all have one thing that brings you together, and that's cheering for the team that you cheer for. People make lifelong memories with their sports team. People use their favorite sports teams as historic markers throughout their lives. Oh, I remember in 2011 when Dirk won, I was hanging out with this friend. We were here. We were at this person's house. We were doing X, Y, and Z. We went to the parade together. We on the way to the parade, this happened. Like, we have memories that are tied to our favorite teams, our favorite sports. And it's like a breakup when it feels like that team stabbed you in the back. And it makes you question your fandom. So if it seems like some people are taking this hard, people are taking this hard. This is a serious breach of trust. You owe zero explanation to anybody. If you want to continue to root for this team, that is fine. That's probably the route that I'm taking, just because I've been a fan for so long of the Dallas Mavericks. I have formed a relationship and a connection to the players on the roster that are still here that I will have. I want them to win. I want to see them do good. And by extension, I'm rooting for the Dallas Mavericks to win. But nobody's going to blame you if you want to move on. Nobody's going to blame you if you don't move on and you shit on the team every day between now and your last dying breath. Nobody is going to blame you. And don't let anybody talk down to you. You hear that? Tell them I told you that. Don't let anyone talk down to you. If you were a Mavs fan, would you be considering the...
You know what I would do, honestly? Like, I used to make fun of like new age fans quite a bit for not being team oriented, but being player oriented. Oh, I'm a LeBron fan. So I like when he was on the Cavs and the Heat and now on the Lakers. When we were growing up, I used to push back on those. It was like, you're not really a fan of anything. I understand it now. I completely understand it. When you think about how much trust you're giving the ownership, how much trust you're getting front offices when you're supporting one singular team, I completely understand saying, I love Luka. So because of that, I'm a Luka fan, and I want to see Luka be successful. If that's with the Lakers, that with the Mavs, or after this contract, he goes to some random third team. That is the guy I'm going to support. And I never expected myself to have that take, because that just hasn't been the way I've been. I've grown as a fan, and my opinion of that literally changed because of Luka. Last week, I didn't have that opinion, but now that Luka's been traded, I'm like, I understand it now.
Quick one-word reaction, folks. The Dallas Mavericks are rolling 7 straight wins, 11-1 since I went out on my balcony. They're the 2 seed currently in the Western Conference. Woo, that feels good to say. Oh, okay, me from the future. This can only mean one of 2 things. Good, bad. Are we first in the West? Just tell me right now.
Fuck you.
Me?
Yeah.
What'd I do? Oh, okay. This has to be good. All right. This us from the future.
This has to be good.
Why do we look like shit? Yeah, what's going on? Yeah. Seriously. Oh, you really want to know what's been going on with me? Okay. Well, Anthony Davis just had 26 points at his Mavs debut.
Whoa.
Wait, okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So what do we give up? PJ, Maxey, Clay? Kyrie? No. Yeah. How many? How many what? 26
How many
points.
dead bodies in the backyard?
No bodies.
I need
in
there
the
to be
backyard.
bodies.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
chill.
all right.
No,
Let's-
that's not. I'm
chill
saying
out.
I need
Calm
there.
down
I
just a
need
little
there to
bit
be
here.
bodies to justify the trade.
Okay.
Like I need Luka to be a serial killer.
That makes sense,
to make
actually.
sense of this.
That makes a little
Yeah,
bit more
I get where he's
sense.
coming from. No bodies, just brainworms. Luka has brainworms. No, we think Nico has brainworms. Well, at least he's qualified to oversee the Department of Health and Human Services now. Yeah, that's true. Luka Doncic once scored 53 points against the Detroit Pistons in a random regular season game because he didn't like that an assistant coach on the Pistons told him to play basketball and stop chirping. Luka got mad that Rudy Gobert talked trash to him in a regular season game, and he kept that inside. He kept that hate, that passion inside, and unleashed it in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals when he hit a step-back 3 game winner in Game 2 over Rudy Gobert and talked the meanest amount of shit directly to his face right after it happened. This guy is a killer. He is a cold-blooded killer. So when I think about the fallout of this trade, when I think about what happens next, the first thing I think is Luka's going to turn into a fucking basketball terminator. You have just lit a fire underneath one of the fieriest competitors the league has to offer. I said this the moment after the trade happened, the thing that pissed me off the most. You want to talk about championships? You want to talk about this guy doesn't fit into the culture? We have eyeballs. We watch what happens on the court. Do you know that? The fans see things that happen on the court. We see a guy who has more killer in him than maybe any other player in the league. There's only a handful of guys who have that killer, that ability to turn it on, the ability to show up in an elimination game against a mid-60 win team and blow them the fuck out almost single-handedly, to score more points than they did in one quarter and talk shit and laugh like a maniac the entire time because your team needed you to pull them out like that. Your team needed you to be the best player on the floor by a mile. But beyond that, you were thriving. You were thriving off the crowd's boos. You were fueled by the fact that Devin Booker and Chris Paul dared laugh at you in a press conference, dared talk shit to you. A killer who goes on the road in Game 5 of the conference finals. The Timberwolves won Game 4 to avoid being swept. What does he do? He walks them down in the first quarter on the road. One of the best defenses we've seen in decades. Obliterated them. Demolished them. Playing with basically one leg because his right knee was so fucked up during that entire postseason run. Just destroyed him and laughed the entire time. You want to talk about culture. You want to talk about championships and winning now. That guy helps you win now. I love Anthony Davis. I love Kyrie Irving. Those guys don't have the killer. They just don't. There's maybe 2 or 3 or 4 guys in the league who have it. And Luka Doncic was one of those guys. And you traded him. And nobody knows that better than a guy who has covered Luka Doncic for basically the entirety of his professional career. I am joined by the one, the only Iztok. If you are a Mavs fan, surely you know of him. And if you don't know of him, you should get familiar. If you're a Lakers fan or a Luka fan, he has a tremendous Substack that I would recommend to anybody. One of the best basketball minds there is. I wanted to bring you on real quick. Just how long have you been covering Luka Doncic, following his career?
Sure. I've been basically since he was 16, I think. Or we heard a little bit about him before. Like there were reports of this young dude who is like on Real Madrid junior teams, but I think when he was 16, when he first played, like I think he was the youngest at that time for the Real Madrid senior team. That's when he came on the radar. And then last 2 seasons, I think last season of his in Madrid, I watched his every game. Then he won the Euro title with Slovenia. Then he became like a household name, and then we followed the draft and the Mavericks and everything.
The ceiling for him was always high in draft talks, right? That he could turn into this Harden type player. That was always a popular comparison. You following him, did you think this, 5-time first team All NBA player in his first 6 seasons, like was that realistically something you thought could happen?
I don't think so. I think like everybody, people had doubts about like his athleticism, but I think his winning mentality, his pedigree, his skills were something that people they didn't, or at least me neither, didn't doubt that he will succeed in the NBA. We thought he's gonna be very good. There was even some advanced early data that he was the best European prospect. So I thought he would be like an all-star or things like that, but nobody thought. I think even him probably that he's gonna be like 5-time consecutive all-star top scorer in the NBA. That's just crazy.
I got to know. I mean, he's a hero over in Slovenia. Obviously, I mean, he was a hero here in Dallas. Like, what in the Slovenian basketball circles? What were the vibes like after this trade went down? I mean, what was the thoughts?
I think the first reaction was same as in Dallas, just shock, and everybody was just stunned, blindsided. But maybe the second or now reactions are a little bit different because people, I think, quickly realized, okay, in some sense, this might be even better for Luka. Not that he didn't love Dallas. I think he loved Dallas and everybody wanted him there. But in sense that I think a lot of people in Slovenia perceived Luka as like this global star that always played on the top clubs, like in Madrid, which is like European, the closest basketball brand or football brand that people here that are not, let's say, very deep into the NBA perceive Lakers as this flashy, most known brand. So that's why I think they connected him with that and said, okay, look, this is probably gonna work out for him fine. But I think a lot of people like myself and other people in these 7 years almost became attached to Dallas, to the Mavericks, to Texas. So I think people who follow deeper are a little bit more disappointed still.
I do think there's a sense of excitement, just if you're a Luka fan, that you're now part of the Lakers, you're playing alongside LeBron James, and it's just this opportunity for more people across the world to see how special he is.
Yeah, I think that's, like you said, that dynamic. It's kind of like the first year in Dallas with Dirk. Everybody, although they were bad and Dirk was horrible, but I think the memories just look passing to those two having fun. I think obviously LeBron is much better now than Dirk was at that point. So yesterday the game was crazy. So he's like, when he wants to be, he can be still the best player on the floor. But just this same dynamic, because both of these good guys has obviously such appreciation for each other. Luka saying LeBron is his favorite player, LeBron says the opposite. So I think that is part of the appeal. And like you said, I think just the spotlight. Although I'm not necessarily sure that Luka himself is, in some ways, yes, but in a lot of ways, I don't think I think this is why he loved Dallas, because it was a big enough city or big city, but still, I think his character is more laid back. So I think he liked that part about being in Texas.
You had such a unique perspective on this because, I mean, hours after the trade went down, the Mavs play the Cleveland Cavaliers on Sunday during the day, and you guys go on a Slovenian television station. You and Sasa Doncic, Luka's dad. Anytime the Mavs played, like an afternoon game, and this was hours after the trade. What was the energy in that room?
It was funny because trade happened morning our time, so I was texting the producer, the person in charge of the whole thing. Says, "Are we still doing the studio? It's like Mavs Cavs game, And then we know nobody on the Mavs will play. So no, we are still doing it. And then we were like, okay, is Sasha coming? But and to his credit, he came. So we said, okay, look, this is what people want to hear, and you are the person that people want to hear. And I think. I mean, it's not like he stated his own opinion. It's not like his thoughts are always Luka's thoughts. So I think he did like what every father would be. He said, okay, I think he was disappointed basically in how the whole thing came down and that he said. But he was also very specific, which I think goes back to how Luka perceived Dallas and the fans and the city. That disappointment is not really directed to the fans or the city, but more about to specific people or a specific person, right?
Do you view this team as like a real legit contender in the Western Conference, or a team that is just going to be like the Luka teams we've seen in the past with the Mavs, where it's good competitive playoff teams that have a ceiling.
I wouldn't say a legit contender. I would
Yeah.
more like say a team that nobody will want to play if they get to the playoffs or the play-in.
And that's any Luka team.
Yeah, and basically they're the opposite of Dallas in a way. They have like 3 legit ball handlers.
Yeah.
So they have LeBron, they have Luka, and it's not just ball handlers, it's ball handlers in playoffs. That's very hard to defend because of their size. They are 2 huge guys. So even a team, I don't know, most teams have one guy to match up. We saw this, let's say, in the Minnesota series with Dallas. They had basically Jaden McDaniels to put on Luka, and he was too thin. He was not strong enough to contain him. Now imagine who's the second guy that's defending LeBron. Is it, I don't know, Anthony Edwards? So there are not many teams built for that. So that's one thing. And then I think Austin Reeves is like a third ball handler that Mavericks would kill for in the past, right?
Yes.
He's like, I don't know, Spencer Dinwiddie on steroids, getting, to the foul line, creating, shooting. So he's like really good, driving, isolation, punishing switches. So I think if he's your third ball handler, you're great.
One thing I'm salivating over, and I guarantee you the league is too, if these two teams were to meet 2-3 months from now in a playoff setting,
then we'll meet in Dallas for sure for that.
Yeah. We will get our beer then. But who would you pick? I'd be interested to know. Who would you pick right now if you had to pick one? Obviously, it's hard because we haven't seen them. We haven't seen them play yet as of the time we're doing this. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's so hard. It's so hard, like you said, not seeing how, especially the Lakers or the Mavericks, all these concerns. But I don't know. I wouldn't. I would pay a lot of money to see Luka play the Mavericks, especially in the American Airlines Arena.
This is one of the darker times a fan base has ever had to endure. I took to Twitter to ask, hey guys, if you're not a Mavericks fan, I want to hear about like the darkest week, darkest month-long stretch in your franchise's history. Not like a prolonged stretch of losing, not like, my team was terrible for 7 years. Obviously that's horrible, but just like a couple week stretch where it felt like your fandom was actually tested, was on the brink of snapping. I got a few good answers. This one right here hurts. Yugoslavia won Eurobasket and ceased to exist. Yeah, that one's pretty tough to beat, actually. Ceasing to exist, I kind of wish that was me at times after this trade. I will say the Oakland Athletics just have a pretty strong case for being one of the most tortured fan bases that there is. The punch wasn't fun, but the roller coaster that was the 2016 playoffs will never be topped as far as worst Warriors stretch. Don't ever reply to me again. Losing KD and Kyrie over a weekend. This one hurts if you're a Nets fan. In 2006, the Knicks president of basketball operations was sued for sexual assault, traded our best young wing for Wash, Steve Francis, gave Jerome James a huge contract, sent 2 lottery picks for Eddie Curry, hired Larry Brown, who torched the locker room, and finished with the worst record in the NBA. Knicks fans have been pretty tortured over the years, and it was because of just horrible management from their team. And they also have one of the worst owners in sports. So they probably have felt very similar things. But the one I kept seeing that I think feels the most similar was the Oklahoma City Thunder stretch in 2016, blowing a 3-1 lead in the conference finals to the greatest regular season team of all time. Very good chance you go on to win the NBA finals that year if you win that series. And then just months later, seeing your star player, the guy that came into your franchise and turned your franchise into a perennial contender, Kevin Durant, leaving to join said team that you just choked to in free agency. That would have made me question my love, not for the game, for life. But again, it feels like you could at least rally behind your team in that moment. You could rally behind the other guys on your roster. You could rally behind Russell Westbrook and say that you had a common enemy, and it was Kevin Durant. He left you. Now it's time to get it out the mud. Now we have to support the guy who wants to be here in Russell Westbrook. This is just, the guy wanted to be here. This is like if the Thunder traded Kevin Durant after the 2011 finals out of nowhere. Just like, yeah, we don't know. He's skinny. Like he looks like a fucking twig out there. We don't want him on the court. But here's the thing. Even if this is the worst stretch a fan base has ever had, even if this is the worst trade ever, the games will be played. They'll step on the basketball court. The Los Angeles Lakers will play basketball games. The Dallas Mavericks will play basketball games. And at some point, we will have to talk about basketball. We'll have to talk about the games being played. Can either of these teams win a championship? Can Luka Doncic go on to do great things with the Los Angeles Lakers? Can the Dallas Mavericks win And not just win, not just make the playoffs, not just win a playoff series, win the championship. Because that is what's required now. You trade Luka Doncic, 25-year-old megastar. You tell us, hey, it's a win now move. Defense wins championships. All right, then. You better win a fucking championship. It's not an option anymore. It's not like, oh, that's kind of cool that we made the finals. That's kind of cool we made the conference finals. There's only one way out of this, buddy. I needed to talk to somebody who's probably forgotten more about basketball in the time that it took me to peel this orange than I know it all. Just to give me some hope. Just to help me kind of understand the basketball side of things here. All right, folks, I'm joined by the one, the only Steve Jones Jr., one of the better basketball minds we have, one half of the Incredible Dunker Spot pod, one of the best NBA and WNBA pods out there. And I really wanted you to come on, and I'm very happy that you came on, because through all of this mess, and we've talked about the conspiracies, we've talked about the fan reaction, just how upset we are, they're still going to put shoes on. They're still going to walk out onto the court and play some basketball. And I'm just very curious as to see what your thoughts on some of this are. Obviously, as of the time that we are doing this, we haven't seen Anthony Davis play with the Mavericks yet. We haven't seen Luka Doncic play with the Lakers yet. But just on paper, I want to know your initial thoughts. The Mavericks obviously think that they're building one of the best defenses in the league. Do you see it that way? Do you think this could be the best defense in the league, or a top 3 defense in the league at least?
Well, thanks for having me. Very excited to be here. I'm going to say all of this in an attempt to remove the context that you can't remove, which is you don't have Luka Doncic anymore.
Yes.
So just imagine that is just like a hovering over my head as I say these things. I think when you look at it, and it's a little ironic, we're talking after Dallas had played Boston in that series, then Dallas without Luka Doncic goes to Boston and wins the game, and it's intriguing. So the formula changes. You know, you didn't get Dale Davis, you got Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is pretty good. And so some of the things I point out is, you know what, Anthony Davis doesn't love playing all the time? The 5. You know where he doesn't have to do that all the time? Dallas. You have Derek Lively in theory. You have Daniel Gafford. You should have rim protection at all times. You have a bunch of wings. So, I mean, you want to talk about the Clay. You have size, Dante, Najee Marshall, Max Christie, who has gone ahead and done some good things since he started. So your defense, your formula defensively hasn't changed. It should be better, because instead of having one big who can do the rim protection things, you should have 2. And no matter what, you know, when AD does play the 5, he's very good at that. So he's very good defensively. So you should feel good about that. You can still switch, especially with AD being able to guard different positions. So Lively can grow in the right way. Gafford can mix it in. You still got PJ, so you can kind of still throw size at people to bother them. You know, I don't think a lot of Dallas fans thought PJ would be guarding Shea right out the gate, but he's kind of done that and had some fun with it. So defensively, you have the concepts, the ideas, especially when it comes to the playoffs, when you're talking about these Boston teams that have size to attack certain people. Even if you mention like the Clippers, the Lakers, any of those, you can kind of manipulate and throw different things at them, which is a good thing. The issue is your defense now has to be very good, because you do not have the offensive wiggle room to a degree, because you don't have the topper, which was Luka Doncic. So your floor is still nice. Still a very nice floor. Looks very good.
Yeah.
You just look up and, the ceiling is a little bit closer than I remember. I don't remember it being so tight. Now, here's where I'm going to get lost and booed, but stick with me.
All right.
So I'm playing the role of someone that has a Dallas Mavericks zip-up hoodie, quarter polo, whatever you want to say. How do I get this team to buy into this, that they're going to be better and elevate themselves? Hey, Anthony Davis, you took a lot of the hits in LA, huh? You kind of want to be a number 1 guy again? I think you can be one. Hey, Kyrie, man. You know, I know you don't want to, but hey, you got a lot more wiggle room, and you can still kind of do the Kyrie chill thing. You think you want to do that? Clay, you left Golden State for a reason. You want to show that off a little bit? You got more room to shoot and run off screens. We need that. Hey, PJ, you know, good job shooting threes. We know you could do more than that. Spencer, you're going to do what you're going to do anyway, so I don't have to really gas you up. Najee Marshall, keep driving. Max Christie, hey, when's the last time you got 30 minutes in the ball?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll set some screens for you, bud. You could double drag and come downhill and play. That's kind of the mindset you have to hope that you can get these guys to buy in and elevate up a level. it's not going to have, again, you're not going to have Luka. So you're not going to have the force that at any point in time is going to make a defense go, I don't like this. We need to send help, whether it's pick and roll, whether it's post ups. You don't have the automatic, we can get you in rotation. The team that's built with Clay, you had Quentin Grimes, you had these wings who could knock down shots, drive closeouts. You don't have that automatic anymore. But it does mean you kind of have to find it now. So if there was a complaint you could have had with Dallas during the see, the wording gets really tricky. If there's a complaint you could have had about Dallas in previous seasons, it's that while you had this force, what was around it? Like, did you have movement around it? Did you have anything else for other people to do? Or did Kyrie have to cook? Like, what was your base offensively? And you look at a Dallas team, and like, not even to quote it, but I didn't imagine Boston, like they would go to Boston and get 32 assists.
Yeah.
So that means, okay, we don't have that. We have to find it. We have to drive. We have to move the ball. We have to work to kind of create some of these looks. And if they can do it together consistently enough with the defense and hold up, hey, I don't think this is a bad team in the Western Conference.
Right.
If you remove the guy that got traded and you line them up against Dallas, Memphis, Houston, are you saying, you know what, it's out of the water? OKC hasn't had fun with Dallas in like 2 years.
Oh.
So I'm just saying, keep hope alive.
One of the big frustrations I had as a Mavs fan, beyond the Luka trade, obviously, was after that, you had such a glaring weakness, I thought, in terms of on-ball creation, because you lost that guy and you don't have anyone else really internally who you can rely on in a playoff setting at the very least. And I thought, if you're going to do the Luka trade, you should at least have something lined up for a secondary creator. And for me, ultimately, if you're going to shrink your proverbial window, which we can get it, like the Mavs, the way that they had their picks going out and stuff and contracts, like I don't know if their window is realistically 10 years with Luka or not, but he's at least there. But now it's your window's 3 or 4 years, maybe even less than that, 2 or 3. And this year, I really struggle to get there in terms of championship contention, because a team double teams Kyrie, or the Thunder put J-Dub on Kyrie or Lou Dort on Kyrie, and then what's next offensively? Because AD's not a creator, is he? Like a realistic.
So here's the thing: AD can be, and this depends on how they use him. He can be someone that really makes your defense think. I don't know if he makes your defense blink. And to your point, when you're talking about playoff concerns, what team says, okay, we're just going to live with this part. We're just going to take Kyrie away. We're just going to, put this person on Anthony Davis and double. We're just going to switch. Like, we're going to try and do one thing to make it hard on you. And that's where Dallas is going to have to work to find the counters during the regular season. But I think with Anthony Davis, the key is, and again, it's how they use him, but you can use him in a lot of different ways. So you can put him at the elbow. You can put him in the post. You can have Kyrie screen for him. You can have guard screen for him. You can put him off down screen. You saw the Lakers run a bunch of elbow action. He's in the corner, try and curl and attack that way. So you can move him around the chessboard. He has to produce at a high level to where, he's doing a lot. We should probably either send some help or change the matchup or something like that. And then maybe that opens some things up, or Kyrie has a night, or Clay is moving off ball. If Clay is having one of those nights, I know you can't count on them out all the time, but defenses are not going to want to let them keep doing that. So that's another way you can kind of get to on the ball. Is it solvable? Is it much more solvable than Luka? Yes. But if we're keeping the optimism hat on, what you lost in a pure secondary creator, you may have gained in a team that's more willing to try and attack. Like Najee Marshall is going to be very willing and able to try and put his head in the paint and see what happens. It's just how many teams does that live with? So, and the funny part, you talk about the window, I think it speaks to, hey, I think this thing's open. Like, if I see Houston and Memphis at the top and OKC, I think we can just roll the dice and try our best. Should you think that way? Different discussion. But that's what I thought. That's what I'm thinking. Again, I'm walking around that locker room and says no one believes in you. Not a single soul believes in you to do anything. And you use that as fuel and motivation. We've seen that turn things around. So, I mean, hey, what happens? You catch Clippers, you're 6 seed. Like, what do you do then?
The underdog. It's the We Believe Mavs year. It's time to rewrite history once and for all. But I'm happy to have you on, man. It does make me feel better. I'm going to put you on the spot real quick before I let you go. On paper, again, we haven't seen these teams play. Lakers, Mavs meet up in a couple of months in the playoffs. Who would you pick if you had to pick one right now in that series?
If I had to pick one right now,
Yeah.
Based on how things went down, I'm not sure that Luka Doncic allows the Dallas Mavericks to beat him in a playoff series right now. Not to say that it could never happen, not to say that Dallas wouldn't be motivated. Based on what I've seen from his face over the last few days, I don't think he would allow the Dallas Mavericks to win. Now, it would be very funny if Dallas just attacked him relentlessly during that series and just did what Boston did to a degree.
Nico could not be in that building. He just couldn't be.
Actually, can I put you on the spot?
Yeah.
If Dallas played the Lakers in a series and Dallas, all they did was attack Luka and it worked, how would that feel?
I mean, I can't speak for all Mavs fans. I've been a Mavs fan my entire life. The highs and lows of Dirk. I'm very fortunate that the moment I gained consciousness, Dirk was on my team. I'd be front row at the parade if the Mavs won. Very, very happy and thrilled. And it would be pretty funny if they went out Luka all the time. But I don't know how Luka hits a step back three in game 4 and is staring daggers at Nico Harrison in row 2. I don't know how that would make me feel either. I don't think I'd be upset in a weird way. I think it'd be like that's who he is. We knew that.
I feel like that would be a very odd series for Mavericks fans to watch.
I know. It would be.
Now, unfortunately, I kind of want to see it.
No, I want to see it. Silver salivating at the thought of something like that. I mean, that would be just incredible. Again, as of the time I did these interviews, Anthony Davis had not made his debut yet, and obviously was not injured yet. As of the time I'm recording this, I don't know when Anthony Davis is supposed to return. Assuming he does return before the end of the season, assuming Derek Lively comes back before the end of the season, this will be a pretty good Dallas Mavericks team. And we know Luka, LeBron, Austin Reeves playing out of his mind. It's going to be a good Los Angeles Lakers team. And maybe the best case scenario here is a Mavericks-Lakers playoff series. I mean, is that what we're heading towards? Is it just inevitable and we haven't fully grasped how inevitable it is just yet? This kind of brings me to my final question I have in all of this. The thing that will probably never be answered. And that is, how is it possible to win this trade? What could happen? From the Mavericks side, Lakers side, it's over. You won the trade. The Lakers don't need to do anything. They've won this trade by bringing in a 25-year-old face of the franchise for the next decade. You've done it. Your work here is done. For the Mavericks, how is it even possible to win this? There's really only 2 scenarios, in my opinion. That's the Mavericks win the championship. And for some fans, that won't even be enough. But for me, I have to be honest, if the Mavs win, I'll be front row at the fucking parade. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Mavs will be front row at the parade. Yeah, I told you. Like I saw the vision. I would have done the trade, but I did see the vision whenever it happened. So But for some fans, winning without Luka doesn't feel like winning at all. The only other way that this could be considered a win for the Mavs is I don't even want to say it out loud, but it's if Luka doesn't become Luka. It's if Luka doesn't reach the heights that we all kind of assumed that he was going to reach. That these lower body injuries are more significant than maybe we've considered them to be over the last couple of years, that there are real concerns about some of the stuff the front office is saying, and he never fixes it. I'm going to tell you right now, that ain't happening. Like, that's just not going to happen. I just have an impossible time believing that. So for me, the only way out of this from the Mavs side of things is if you win a championship, and preferably multiple championships. And I'm just not so sure that's even possible with this team. Look, I just want to say one thing in closing. I don't know how long this video is going to be. If you've watched the whole thing, thank you very much. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. This is a closure type of moment for me. I wanted to get all of my thoughts in one place. And I really kind of wanted to document the feelings that fans had in the immediate aftermath of this trade so we could look back on this years down the line and say, man, do you remember how crazy that shit was when it went down? I've ranted and ranted and ranted for days on end. It's pretty much all I've done if you followed my content over the last 10 or so days. And I still just have so much more to say. So I just wanted to put it all in this video right here to try and make sense of all of this shit. And look, last part here. I've been critical of Luka throughout his career. If you followed me on this channel at all, you know that that's no secret, really. People very much disagree with some of the things that I've said about Luka during his time with the Mavericks. People have gotten very upset at me with some of the things that I've said. And ironically enough, some of my criticisms of Luka are the same things that we've heard out of the front office over the last 10 or so days. Yes, sometimes I do think he lets officials get into his head too much. Sometimes I do think he takes himself out of games complaining to officials. Sometimes I do think he gets so angry at the way a game has been officiated that he completely and totally changes the way that he plays the game. That can be frustrating. Yes, there are times where I feel his buy-in defensively isn't where it needs to be consistently. Yeah, sure, there are times where he gets steals, and there are times where he might get a block. But overall, I've had my vocal criticisms about Luka and his buy-in defensively. Now, that being said, he was having the best season he's probably had in his career defensively, and that really has been a trend. It's been trending upward in that direction for him. He's been a much better defender over the past couple seasons than he was in years prior, and that is a huge credit to him and how he has turned up his intensity on that end of the court. Sure, I've had my concerns with his conditioning and how seriously he takes conditioning, how seriously he takes his diet, how seriously he takes his recovery process, which is the thing for me that I've been the most concerned about. I've never really voiced those concerns because to me it didn't really feel fair. I was just going off of other people's reporting. I don't fucking know him personally. For me, the conditioning thing, him wearing out towards the end of him tiring out towards the end of games, him being tired going into the playoffs, him dealing with nagging injuries going into postseason is typically has more so to do with the fact that the Mavericks have required so much out of Luka and have been so dependent on Luka over the course of his career that it's just worn him down, and it hasn't been fair at all whatsoever to him. I had my concerns about that. I was as vocal as possible when it came to my concerns about his usage and just how much the Mavericks required out of him on a nightly basis. But look, the reality is this. The reason why I have those concerns, the reason why I voice those concerns, the reason why it might have felt to you if you've watched me that I'm too critical of Luka or maybe too harsh on him. It's only because he is legitimately my favorite player in the sport. I'm not lying. I'm not making that up. He is legitimately my favorite player in the sport, and my expectations for him are through the fucking roof. Luka's an all-NBA player. Luka's already one of the greatest players to ever play the game. I think he could be a top 10, top 15 player in the history of the sport. I think Luka can consistently be the best player in the league. I did think he was the best player in the league last year before he started to deal with so many injuries. I do think he was the best player in the league last year. I think he's a guy who can win multiple MVPs. I think he's a guy who can win multiple championships and be the number one guy on those championships teams, leading them to victories, leading them. And because of that, the expectations for him are higher. That's it, though. It's not because I dislike Luka Doncic. I fucking love Luka Doncic. I love so much about what he does. I love how much killer he has when he plays. I love it. I love the competitive spirit that he has. It was such a joy to watch him play for the Dallas Mavericks because of that. Because I love guys who have that in them. There really is only a handful. Obviously, you're talking about the ultimate competitors. You're talking about professional athletes. But there's just a level that Luka could reach where you could just see it in his eyes, that he was pissed off. Somebody on the other team pissed him off. Somebody in the fourth row pissed him off. A commentator pissed him off. And he was locking the fuck in for 48 minutes. It was about to dominate the other team. I love that shit. I love watching him play for the Dallas Mavericks. And now that's been ripped from me. That's been taken away from me. Because Nico Harrison said, hey guys, I've hit a few shots in a row. Look at this 38-foot three. Valentine, no! What are you doing, Nico? Obviously, Luka's not dead. Let me fucking knock on wood. I don't know the alternate timeline that we live in, but I can watch him play, and I will continue to watch him play, and I will continue to root for him and cheer for him, and by extension, root for the Los Angeles Lakers, even though that does feel kind of nasty. And even in my most critical moments about Luka, it was always out of love. Hey, I need you guys to understand, I don't work for the team, okay? Contrary to popular belief, I do not get paid by them. They have declined my credentials several times, okay? Even though I had my frustrations with them, I never wanted them traded. That thought had never even crossed my mind. All of the things that the Mavericks have said about him over the last 10 days, the reason why there's such shitty explanations is you just worked through it. He's 25 years old. He has conditioning concerns. Okay. You hope that he matures and works through it. He has diet concerns. Okay. You hope he matures and works through it. And if he doesn't do that, then all right, he's just a fat slob who's a top 3 player in the world. Oh man, woe is me. What a horrible place to be in for a franchise. I'm a top 3 player in the world. Yeah, but he's fat though, dude. Yeah, but dude, he drinks sweet tea. You think we give a shit? Huh? Because he drinks a beer after the game every now and then? We're supposed to be like, oh, okay. You traded him? Okay, yeah. Why? Oh, because he's fat. Cool. Yeah, that works. Oh, because his conditioning's bad and he's injured all the time? Oh, okay, who are you trading him for? Anthony Davis? Wait, what? Something's not adding up there. This one hurt. I mean, this is an unprecedented moment in sports history. I wanted to document it. I wanted to document my feelings on it, and I wanted to document other fans' feelings on it so we can look back at this like a time capsule. Because this trade will be talked about forever. Forever. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I mentioned a Wilt Chamberlain trade in here that happened 60 years ago. I mentioned the Babe Ruth trade that happened over 100 years ago. This trade will almost certainly be talked about in a century's time, assuming that we're still a species that exists on this planet. Luka Doncic, I love you. I'm sorry this team did you this way, and I'm sad to say it's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. Gobert switched on to Luka. Luka. 3. Boom! Boom! Luka Doncic! Boom! Come on, baby! And gets it. Nas Reed misses! The Mavs win game 2! Oh my god! What a win! Yeah! Look at Luka! Yeah! Yes! You just witnessed an all-time great have an all-time moment. I have to decompress. Go home, bitch. That's what Luka said. Oh my god. He's a motherfucker, man. That's the type of shit I love. That's why. Guys, that's why we hold him to the standards, because he is the fucking best. Whatever I said, I'm not shitting on, like, I'm not even addressing it. That's why I hold him to those standards, because he's the fucking best, man. He's the best. He is the best in the fucking world. He is the best player in the league. He just is. He's the best the league has to offer. No one does the shit he does, man. He's the biggest fucking killer in the league. They don't know that. They let last year get to their head. They don't remember all the shit this fucking guy's done already, man. He's a killer. He's a murderer. He rips your soul out. He spits on you. He does it in your building, and then he talks shit to you, and he tells you to go home, bitch. Get out. Get out! I'm him! I am him! I'm the best in the world! I'm a killer! 10 seconds left! I don't care, I'm taking that shot! I'm making it! It doesn't matter to me, that's what I do! Most people don't! There's only a handful of those guys. There's only a small amount of them. And he does it. It doesn't matter to him. That's what he does.